grew up in Perth in Western Australia and undertook my undergraduate degree in engineering at the University of Western Australia, fully expecting to become an engineer. But in the final year of my undergraduate degree, I undertook a research project and I found that I really enjoyed the opportunity to push forward the boundaries of knowledge. So after a couple of years in and out of industry, I came back to the university to undertake a PhD, to do some tutoring, and I found that the combination of seeking new knowledge through research and educating bright young minds made a career that I really enjoyed and that I really found fulfilling. So I've spent my time since that point as an academic. I worked my way up through the academic ranks to become professor. I then became head of school at the School of Civil and Resource Engineering at the University of Western Australia, and found that academic leadership was something I enjoyed, something that my colleagues seemed to appreciate my leadership. And so from that point forward, I've been in academic leadership roles. So from the University of Western Australia, I moved to Durham University as the Pro-Vice Chancellor of Science there. And then on the 1st of January 2014, I moved to Dublin to become the President of University College Dublin and to become the first Australian to lead an Irish university. The International Association of Universities is the global voice of higher education, and I think that all universities should become members. I was fortunate in 2016 to be elected to the Administrative Board of the International Association and have served on that board ever since. I've also taken over the chairmanship of the Internationalization Committee of the International Association of Universities, and we run a range of activities, including a regular survey and report on internationalization of higher education around the world. We run a series of programs and workshops which members can avail of. Recently, a masterclass was done in the construction of internationalization strategies. So there are many benefits to be gained from the International Association of Universities, and as I say, I encourage all universities to join up. I think that our higher education system today is still very effective, despite the various criticisms. When you look at the leaders that have come through our universities, the careers that our graduates go on to have, you can't help but feel that the education that they've been given has been very valuable. Now, technology allows us to look at the way that we teach again, to look at things differently. So I think that the classroom of the future is going to look somewhat different to the classroom of today. Hopefully it will be more effective. We might see much more blended learning, a flipped classroom approach, where instead of students coming to the class to gain information and then going home to practice it, they gain information through watching recorded lectures and looking at online material, and then come to the class to engage in practical exercises and group activities where they can really benefit from the face-to-face interaction. I still think there'd be a place for traditional lectures because the skills that our students get in sitting in lectures, listening to monologues, absorbing information that way are important for professional life. We still in professional life spend a lot of time listening to long monologues and having to digest the information which is within those monologues. So these are important skill sets which shouldn't be forgotten. The COVID-19 pandemic and the consequent restrictions have seen universities in Ireland teaching remotely for more than a year now. We still have some activities happening on campus, those time-critical, essential activities which can only be done face-to-face, such as practical laboratory classes and clinical training. But most of our operation has been done at a distance, as I say, for more than a year now. Now that's been a very significant challenge to the university, but one that we've been able to overcome largely with the use of digital technology. Students are still able to continue their learning journeys. Most of our research is continuing largely unhindered, and generally the operations of the university continue. In addition, we've been able to contribute to the national effort in fighting the pandemic. We host the National Virus Reference Laboratory, which did most of the early testing for the virus and continues to coordinate the national program. We had the first major contact tracing centre in the country set up within our facilities and headed by two UCD academics. We've also had a range of research projects which have been assisting the national effort in confronting the virus, including testing the sewage to see the extent of infections in the community. UCD is a comprehensive, research-intensive university. We have research programs spanning across the spectrum of academic interests. We host a number of national research centres, including in data science and the bioeconomy, just to name a few. One of the real contributions UCD has made to the communication of science was back in 1965 when Father Tom Burke and Dr. Tony Scott of UCD set up the Young Scientist exhibition. This is an exhibition which is aimed at school children and is open to school children right across the island of Ireland. Students enter either individually or teams and enter science projects, which are then judged by a panel of experts, many of them coming from UCD, and the best of those projects are then put on exhibition at the Royal Dublin Society, which has a big exhibition hall. So that exhibition last year had over 500 exhibits. The general public then come in and see the science projects that the students have done, and the students explain them to the general public and to interested scientists. The projects are then finally judged and a winner is announced in a number of categories. But the engagement that this project has got amongst school children with science is quite extraordinary. And because it happens year after year, there's an expectation and a preparedness in schools. This is really promoting science within schools, but also the popularization of science within Irish society. So I think this is a very significant contribution that UCD, through its faculty, has made. I think the main challenge in popularizing science and making scientific knowledge more accessible and easy to understand is first of all overcoming the stereotype of scientists. Even today, children's programs and children's literature feature caricatures of scientists as Einsteinian figures in white lab coats, sometimes out to take over the world. Whereas we know that scientists are really people like anyone else who just have a special skill set which has been developed over time. I think there's also a need to be able to communicate the fact that scientific knowledge changes over time, and that because scientists change their opinion from time to time, that doesn't mean that they're liars or that somehow they're wrong. It's that knowledge evolves, that as we gain more knowledge, then theories have to change, understandings have to change. And to get that subtlety across to the general public, I think is important. The final bit is that we need to generate a discipline of thought within the general public. YouTube, social media, etc., have been directing the public towards very brief engagements with material, but we know that science requires considered long-term engagement with evidence and reflection, which is something which is increasingly rare within our society. So these are the three things that I think we need to overcome as we popularize science and make it easier for the public to understand. I think that events like the Nobel Fest play a very important role in bringing real scientists to the general public. In our academic lives, much of the discussion that we have as researchers is with other specialists in our own disciplines, and the scientific papers that we write are really aimed at an expert audience. Activities like the Nobel Fest really allow the general public to be exposed to real scientists discussing issues that are relevant to them, which breaks through the stereotypes, which allows them to understand that scientists are people just like them and that the issues that they discuss are issues which are important. So I think these types of activities are extremely important in publicising science and promoting science. I hope that all the viewers of the Nobel Fest will enjoy the talks which are being presented, that you'll find them stimulating and thought provoking, and that the very comprehensive agenda that's been put together by the committee, you will find something that really excites you. I'd also like to congratulate the organisers on the depth of the programme that they've put together and on the star-studded guest list that they have managed to get together. I'd also like to thank everyone that's contributing to the Nobel Fest this year. Thank you so much for your contributions. I know that they will be valued. Nobel Fest.